So this is our deck dinner for August the 2nd, 2018. James is having one of the kale fatty eggs that I made with, what do you call it? Whatever. And that leftovers from last night that I had. And I'm just having the whatever. And I'm having a couple containers full of earthbound organic greens to drink. And this is my bikini of the day. I didn't show you this close up, but it's actually quite fancy. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me, but there's a little Virgin Mary hanging here for some reason. And it says some stuff on the back of it too. Maybe James will read it. No, I think it's in Latin. It's very small. Anyway, I'm procrastinating because I don't want to drink this. So let's just get that over with. Oh, that is terrible. Ugh. I watched this. I'm doing some stuff, and jungle. Nature has only one law: survival. It's a true story, and you know, I really like Daniel Radcliffe. He made the transition from Harry Potter to movies with some meaning or something. You know, not a lot of child stars can transition well. I think he did. I'm impressed with what he's been doing anyway. I think the actors were good in that movie, and it was written well, directed well, all that sort of stuff. If you're interested in seeing the wilds of Bolivia, then totally watch that movie. Or if you're thinking of traveling to some wild area with some friendly acquaintances or friends or whatever, I'm thinking, do I want to become their bushmeat? You know, it might be worth considering. I don't know where James is. He was coming out. If he doesn't come out soon, I'll just turn the camera off because I don't really have anything else to talk about. I'm the messiest eater in the world. cute little Papillon and a Yorkie just walked by with an owner. They're very sweet little dogs. They didn't say anything. They didn't see me here, I suppose. You just missed seeing Papillon and a Yorkie.
Who?
Papillon and a Yorkie.
Oh, in the same brood?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, well, there were 2 dogs. Is that what you're asking me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Already mixed it up. It should be pretty good.
Okay, Alex. Put the sun shade up. Sorry about that. It's just I'm going to be in the sun a lot.
No problem. Whoa. I need one of those with the crank that just lifts
That
it
would be
on.
nice.
Yeah. 'Cause those are pretty hard on the back.
Yeah, I've already been out in the sun. Like, did the recycling that was in the car.
Yeah. What do you think that says?
Oh, I can't see. I have no
Okay.
idea.
It's very small writing.
I can barely read craft upside down.
Mm-hmm. This dinner was given to us. It was, what do you call it? Asian sriracha or something? Nourish bowl?
So South Asian here.
I suppose. Yeah, it's funny to think. I mean, Asian, what does that really tell you? It's so...
By far the biggest continent.
There's so much different variety in what the meal will be like, so...
Yeah, that's the funny thing about some Europeans 100 years or less ago, and or less ago, saying all Asians were the same.
Wow.
In terms of culture, and some would have thought it was maybe due to race. There are huge differences. Even within cultures, there's huge differences in India.
Yeah, wow. You start piling India into it, it's just crazy different. Well, I can't imagine Mongolian cuisine is very exciting. Although, I mean, we did like Mongolian grill.
Well, technically, there's probably a lot of meat.
Mm-hmm.
That's the irony of a paleo diet. It's actually a pastoral nomads diet.
Mm-hmm. It's spicy enough, I got my nose running. So you were telling me about...
And pastoral nomadism is actually, from the research that I've done, later than agriculture. Hilarious. It's that way definitely in the New World, because it never happened in the New World. Agriculture happened all over the place in the New World. What were you going to say?
You're right.
I got that. I guess I never told you about this. Kathy asked me which came first.
Well, yeah, you told me about that, but I never thought about the New World.
Mm-hmm. See, like, that was my contribution to it. We have got a test case that occurred in historical times where there was a history that could record it. And it isn't even close. You know what I'm saying? There was agriculture over 2,000 years ago, from what I can tell, in the New World. They had something like transhumans, I think, with the guanacos and the alpacas and llamas and vicuñas and things like that. But that was as close as it came, and that was just like in South America.
No, you were telling me about the people of southern India, what they were called, and that they had some of them were still practicing their same religion from before.
Okay, it's all over India. They're called Dalits.
What?
Dalits. D-A-L-I-T-S. Dalits. Okay. They're natives, and I don't know how much they practice their religions. They're probably pretty surreptitious about it. But they're the lowest of the low.
For caste system, you mean?
I think they'd be seen as outside the caste. They would be not just seen as being physically unclean, but ritually unclean. Like a Brahmin would probably have to cleanse himself if he maybe even got in their presence.
We were talking about it because we were watching Criminal Minds, and one of the episodes was in India, and there was a guy who his father had went to a hospital with dehydration, and the doctor let him die so that he could sell his organs. And anyway, so then we started talking about that. Okay, so if I'm sorry, you're gonna have to say the name of them again. Daleks? Are they like Daleks from like, no? Okay.
Dalits. It's
Dalits.
yeah.
Okay, so they're not like Doctor Who Dalits. Okay. Now that we've gotten past me looking like an idiot, so they were all over India, not just in the south,
My understanding is
and they're all over now.
they'd be scattered.
Okay.
Scattered little pockets. So they kind of think about native reservations, right? Or reserves.
Mhm.
They're scattered, really, really. But it'd even be more so because my understanding is they wouldn't have, at least up until recently, have any sort of reserve system, right? It's just
Yeah. Okay. So, where did the Hindu people come from originally then?
okay. So the concept, there's a lot of flim-flammery when it comes to Varna, Varna, because it's even like in George Harrison's Guru, he's saying it doesn't really refer to color, person's color, but that's what it means. It means color, and that's the basis of the caste system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so George Harrison's Guru, who's very, 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 very conservative, says this. It's just occupations. Well, it's occupations, but the basis of it would be, my suspicion is pretty strong, based on color. The lighter we are, the better. So their term for the people who invaded the area, that's where he got his idea from. They'd be lighter in color. Who were they? Indo-Europeans, right?
So the Hindu people came from Europe? No.
Hinduism is a religion, right?
Yeah, but I mean, people follow certain religions, and this is a part of their social structure, right? So
Yeah, but it's not part of their race.
yeah, but originally it must have been.
Okay. What happened is Indo-Europeans would have invaded there. They tend to think somewhere around 1800, 1500 BC. I think they're seriously wrong. I think Indo-Europeans were there even before like 1850 BC. And they could easily have come in different ways, right?
Oh.
Different ways.
Okay, so it may not have been. So Hinduism may not have spread from Europe. It would have just originated in India, but.
So, yeah, no, you're getting it. So, in the northern part of India, and this is the major part of India, the places where, so you got India here, it's like a triangle. At the bases of the triangle, of course, it's upside down triangle, so it's up in the north. It's called something like Indo-Gangetic Plain. So that's the Indus River here. India is named after it.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. Probably India is named after it. And then you got the Ganges River here. This is where the population is, right?
Yeah.
This is where the population is. And this is where the Indo-Europeans, can you say they settled? See, what happened is they would have been a warrior class that would have dominated India. And their language became dominant as a result. And or languages. And so the classical language that preserves that kind of stuff is called Sanskrit. It's a dead language, like Latin is dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
But from it came many, many different languages, just as many languages like Portuguese, Spanish, French, Italian, and Romanian came from Latin. Many languages came from Sanskrit, and related languages, presumably. So nowadays it's Bengali. That's off in the Ganges Delta.
The east?
Mm-hmm. Well, the east end on the delta, right? So Bangladesh is named after, shares the same name, right?
Okay.
Desh, I think, means kind of like country or something like that. So that would be something like Bengali country. But the western Bengal is in India, right?
Yeah.
Bangladesh is a separate, it's basically a Muslim country. So there's Bengali. There's Oriya, which is kind of southwest of there. You've got Bihar, which is to the west, more like the north. Did I say northwest? The northeast is Oriya. Northwest is Bihari. There's over on the other side, like around Bombay or Mumbai, as it's now called. You got Maharashtra. Is that it? Marathi, rather. Maharashtra is the
Okay.
province or state that it's in. You got Gujarati. You've got Punjabi, which the Sikhs tend to speak, right? And that spills over into Pakistan. Almost all the languages in Pakistan are Indo-European, like Sindhi, like Punjabi, which spills over into it, Urdu, Baluchi, Kashmiri, and Pashto, which it shares with Afghanistan. There's one that's an ancient language, Brahui, and it looks as though it's a Dravidian language related to the languages that have survived in the southern part of India. So the four main ones are, let me see, I think it's Kannada, Kerala, something like that. I may be mixing it up with the state, and Malayalam and Tamil. So those, you see, what's happened is those tend to be the most Hindu of them all. Weirdly enough.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
Hinduism
how can that be?
Well,
because, like, if you go, I explore cultures mostly by cooking. Mm-hmm. And so I look at recipe books, and they eat a lot of fish in southern India.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And their diet is quite different. And if you look at pictures of the people there, they're considerably darker.
Mm-hmm. They're natives, right? Well, they aren't even natives. This is what I'm
thinking. They must, like, if you look at different continents, mm-hmm. and you look at how people have infiltrated or mm-hmm. spread through and it seems like the native people get pushed down in the continents. You were talking about the pygmies in Africa.
Well, they get pushed to areas that people don't like living in. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, one of the things that happens is you get pushed maybe to deserts or even the tropics, right? So they're the little pygmies, right?
Yeah.
They got pushed into the tropics. In South Africa, they got pushed into the desert, right? Because the Bantu are actually coming from a tropical area. And they pushed them and Hottentots and a variety of other people. Lighter skinned, like almost yellowish, and in many cases smaller. They pushed them into the desert, right? The Kalahari Desert. So they just get pushed. So what's happened in India, see, like the Dravidians, I don't think were even natives there, because they've got Austronesians there. Austronesians. So I suspect they're dark in color. So who'd they be related to? Nesian means island, right?
Polynesian people? I have no idea.
Well, probably more like the Melanesian. Oh. So in the Pacific, more like the South Pacific, you got this huge spread of stuff.
Yeah, but the island people, they just move to different islands. Why would they be?
Well, there's actually different groups of them. So you've got to the north, and they're the biggest expanse, is the Polynesians. Mm-hmm. Poly just means many islands, and maybe that's a way to remember how big the spread is. And I think they're the ones that actually spread down to Madagascar. Then you've got Micronesians, and there's a small group kind of like in the middle there. And then in the south, you've got blacks, and they're called Melanesians. Melan means black, right?
Yeah. Black
Islanders and stuff like that. So I'll have to check, but the Austronesians in India, my suspicion is they're related to the Melanesians and/or they say Austronesians.
So they're in southern India.
They're all over the place. Again, more towards the east.
Well, if they were boat people, then it makes sense that they eat a lot of fish. But I suppose if you live along the coast, it makes sense that you eat a lot of fish.
So they might have come in later. You see what I'm saying? See, one of the things, my suspicion about the Indus Valley civilization, this is the thing that they say started 2500 BC or something like that. Mm-hmm. They could be off by 1,000 years. They could be off by 1,000 years. I kid you not, because their archaeology is based on Mesopotamian archaeology, which in turn is based on Egyptian history, not archaeology. And Egyptian history, for the early part of Egyptian history, is off by roughly 900 years. It's hard to explain. But so it might have started like 1600 BC, this actual civilization. The king list for India would go earlier than that. But from what I can tell, the Indo-Europeans were there already. So would it be weird for the Indus Valley civilization to be composite between Indo-Europeans and, let's say, Dravidians? Absolutely not. When we look at Mesopotamia, they give the credit for writing to the Sumerians. They can't. It looks as though it itself, from the research I've been looking at, is kind of got a little bit of an Indo-European layer.
Okay,
but then you have Semites there too. There's just no doubt about it. Sumerians and Semites, called Assyrians, Babylonians, or Akkadians, they shared that civilization.
And do they practice their own religion?
Who?
The people that are like island people. The
Austronesians?
Austronesians.
My suspicion is some of those would be Dalits. Yeah.
Okay.
But I
So,
I
and what
haven't
is their
read
religion like?
Dalits?
Yeah,
It probably
do you know
very
anything?
okay. So, what would you say Native American religions are like? It's hard to
Well,
generalize,
I suppose
right?
It's, it'd be
Yeah.
different based
Yeah.
on the.
Yeah. So these guys would probably be, just, it'd vary from one thing to another.
Okay. So
See,
they're
like-
kind of tribal, you're saying.
Well, I figure, but I don't know that much
And that's
about
why
it.
they spread all over.
What do you mean spread all over?
Well, you said there's little pockets of them everywhere.
Okay. Did the natives here spread all over? They're pockets because they're surviving where they can.
Yeah.
They would have been spread all over to begin with, and then they've just been, just like animals. They've been treated like animals to a large extent, but like tigers, they're the place where they can survive gets smaller and smaller and smaller because civilization is encroaching on them, right?
Yeah.
So there would have been forests. I won't say all over India because there are actually some fairly formidable deserts off in
Sure.
the west. But you'll see pictures of camels going across them, like caravans and so on and so forth across these deserts. Thar Desert, I think, is the big one. So I'll have to investigate more. They could have been people who just came in and a little bit later on and settled in there and stuff like that. But so Egypt itself, you look at it, there are words that are Semitic, but most of it, they figure, is related like to the Berbers and the Tuaregs. Well, they go all the way to those type of languages go all the way to the Atlantic, right?
Yeah.
But what happened in Egypt is these places is weird. They tend to be like bowls, right? And they're mixing places for cultures.
Okay, so
So-
do they have to be secretive about practicing their religion, or is it kept on the down low kind
Well,
of
that's
thing?
what I
or?
was saying. I don't know that much about it, but I'm just learning about it. So if I get things wrong, I get things wrong. But my suspicion is they're very, very quiet about it, just like the way natives are here now, right? They don't want people. It's like the one guy when I was taking Blackfoot. I asked him, do you have flood myth? He said I could tell you, but we'd have to kill you. He's joking, but on the square. And because, for example, the Sundance ceremonies, they were crushed, right? They were people, I guess, were prosecuted for carrying those things out. I don't know if they are still conducted. I don't know. And it's probably not my business, right? But at any rate, it's a big schmozzle. India is as big as Europe, and it has probably a bigger mixture of languages. Almost every language